Today's episode of the BS Podcast on the Ringer Podcast Network, brought to you as always by ZipRecruiter. You know it's not smart? Trying to figure out the MVP odds. We're going to do that anyway. It never goes that well, but we're going to do it later in this podcast. You know what else isn't smart? Job sites that overwhelm you with tons of the wrong resumes. Luckily, there's a smart way at ZipRecruiter.com/BS. They find the right people with the right skills for your job. They actively invite them to apply. You get qualified candidates fast. They're the best at this. Right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/BS. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Meanwhile, SeatGeek, the best app for buying and selling tickets to sporting events, concerts, and more. $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase for any game or sporting event. That covers all the baseball, football, basketball, hockey, even soccer this month. Use promo code BS. Download the SeatGeek app or go right to SeatGeek.com. Don't forget about the Halloween Unmasked podcast. Episode 3 went up on Monday about Michael Myers. Episode 4 coming on Thursday. And don't forget about the Ringer Preview Palooza Tuesday, October 15th. I am about as excited about this as I've been for anything we've done at the Ringer. It is a whole day of content on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, all over the place leading up to our live watch of the first 2 games. I'm going to be involved in that live watch. Sixers Celtics on Tuesday. Follow theringer.com and all of our social feeds for all the information you need about that. Coming up, we're going to figure out the MVP with Kevin O'Connor and Ryen Russillo. Who is winning in 2019? I have no idea. And then after that, John C. Reilly. I don't know how we got him. Been trying to get him for years. He finally came on. A really great conversation about his career, Paul Thomas Anderson, working with the Step Brothers crew, McKay and Farrell, what it means to be an actor in 2018, all that stuff. That is all coming up next. First, Pearl Jam. All right, hey, it's Bill Simmons. It's Kevin O'Connor.
What's up?
We borrowed Ryen Russillo.
How was everybody?
We're taping this for Wednesday's BS podcast. We're just doing MVP odds, 2019. This is the first year, fellas, in I don't know how many years that I have no idea who's going to win the MVP. I don't even have a really strong opinion. But the last 24 hours, I feel like I'm forcing myself into one. But KOC, you start with us.
Are you forcing yourself into Giannis? Because he seems to be
I feel like I'm forcing
pick
myself Giannis's way. Talk me out of this, Russillo.
It depends on what they do. You know, it's like when I started thinking Anthony Davis, is somebody the last couple of years where I go, you know what? I really want to pick him. I'm going to go on Mike and really stir the pot. And then Golick picked him, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm not going to pick him because it was like I thought I was doing something
special. He picked him this year?
No, it was 2 years ago.
Oh.
So then I started thinking about it. Like, there's no way he's going to win as a 7 and 8 seed. That's not the way the voters work. I think the most important thing to do when you try to figure out who's going to win the MVP voters vote for the story over everything else. And once you're kind of old news, they're just not going to vote for you again. When Curry and those guys blew the 3-1 lead, I was like, he'll never, I said it immediately on the radio show. I go, he's never going to win an MVP again. And it's impossible, too, because you'd have to compare him against an insane 70-plus win season. So when I go through all this, if we start with just Giannis.
Good narrative. Good story.
Good story. Who else? We're sick of these other guys. Okay, fine. But the Bucks, like, they've got to be pretty good. I'm not saying they have to be a 1 seed in the East, but they have to be contending all year long at the top for him to win it.
You know, what he was just talking about, this happened. I did a whole chapter in my book about MVP and some of the biggest travesties they've had. People get tired of people. The voters get tired. One of the best examples ever was Jason Kidd. Remember that year? It was like, did my phone just do that?
Yeah. That's a cool noise, though. How do I do that?
I like that noise.
I'm going to get rid of that.
What alert is that?
Remember that year, it was like Jason Kidd or Duncan? Who's the MVP? And it was clearly Duncan, but people were making the Jason Kidd case. Kidd finished second. Then the next year he was like 9th with the exact same season.
Right, and they went to the finals again.
It was another one was Karl Malone in 97.
That's
where
what happened
everyone
with James
talked
Harden
themselves into Jordan, and then in 98 people were like, F Karl Malone, he's out. He's out of the family. We're not voting for him again. Yeah, that was another example last year.
That could be James Harden this year, right? I mean, he could
Right.
put up essentially the same exact statistical season that he did last year, but I think there was Harden fatigue even before he won MVP.
I have Harden fatigue right now, and he hasn't even played basketball in 4 months. You know what I don't want to watch this year is 4 guys spread out as he does this thing for 6 months. I'm sorry.
Watching it live is both incredibly impressive because you can't believe how efficient he is on shots that are still contested shots. You don't know what he's going to do, but also watching it live is so boring. Because you just go, I'm incredibly impressed with what you do. It's exceptional, but it's also just like, all right, here we go. I mean, here's the thing. I can't believe every Vegas odds that have come out, and I think the ones you sent us to us, they have Harden as the second favorite behind LeBron. I wish I could short
it. Yeah.
Because there's no way. Now, it took him longer than people thought. This whole argument that he should have, won it against Westbrook, I understand. The one against Curry, I don't side with. But the last thing we saw from him was missing shots for 4 straight hours of game time.
Yeah.
The voters are not going to vote for him again after they just gave it to him. So Harden is way too high on all these Vegas odds for MVP.
He's fourth for what it's worth.
He's fourth?
It's LeBron, Davis, Giannis, Harden.
Harden's,
The
fourth.
way it's formatted is...
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
They did it left to right.
Fourth is still too high. Kawhi
So right
should
now-
be ahead of him.
Top
No doubt
5
about
right now is LeBron is basically plus
Yeah.
333, which is weird. Anthony Davis plus 450, Giannis plus 500, Harden plus 650, Kawhi plus 950, Durant is 10-1.
Kawhi should be ahead of Harden. That's my first one.
I think-
Every time I've seen it, I go, no way.
Kawhi should maybe be second or third because, as you mentioned earlier,
Right.
the way voters vote, narrative matters. And with Anthony Davis, at best, what are Pelicans? 6, 7 seed? At best, probably. Whereas Toronto, if Kawhi stays healthy over the course of the season, Toronto could push for the 1 seed.
So one thing with him, changing teams, I can't remember somebody changing teams and then winning the MVP the next year. The furthest I go back, Moses Malone
Barkley,
and Barkley.
Phoenix.
So those are the 2 times in 35 years. You're talking about
Was that part of the kid narrative, though, of him coming? That's obviously part of why he finished second.
It was
that
a
year.
little bit. Also,
Yeah.
that wasn't a good year. There weren't a
Yeah.
lot of good candidates, but Moses was the 12th best player of all time. Barkley's the 19th best player of all time. So for Kawhi to do that, you're talking about peak years from 2 of the best players ever. So Kawhi would have to go to Toronto. They won 59 games last year. That would have to bump up to like 63, 64. He would have to be first team All-NBA. Right there, I have an issue because is he a better forward than Durant or LeBron this year? Is he going to be first team All-NBA over either of those guys?
If everybody's healthy, it's hard to imagine that.
Can't
That's gonna
imagine.
happen.
So 10-1, I think, is nice value, but you're betting on Toronto going like 67-15,
And on him to stay healthy.
which
No guarantee.
there's a case to be made that Toronto actually could be better this year. I don't personally see it, but I've heard the case.
Do you think the win thing, though, would play into that? Like they have to have more wins and be the 1 seed for Kawhi to win
They'd
it?
have to be the
Because-
1 seed. Yeah, or maybe even home
Yeah,
court.
but just think how 80 games plays out, where if it's the same record, but they're good. We're like, man, there's a toughness about them that they've never had before.
Yeah.
Like we'd start saying some of that stuff, and the way I would look at this first is I would start with how, whatever direction you guys want to go in, but I would start figuring out like
I think
the
we should
narratives-
cross off.
Yeah, and the narratives of how we would eliminate guys. Like LeBron wins it if they're a higher seed than we expect. There's all these awesome stories every week where
Yeah.
it's like he's such a great teammate.
Oh my
and
God.
all these things like
Josh Hart
Yeah.
said he's changed his life.
LeBron
Yeah,
evolving his game, playing more off ball.
Beasley's
Yeah.
eating kale.
No,
You know? So
Here's the case for LeBron. This is the most athletic team he's been on maybe ever. You'd almost have to go back to the first Heat season, just that he had Bosch and Wade in their prime still. And that, on fast breaks, remember some of those 3-on-2s? And it's like, but for the most part, the last 6-7 years, he's been surrounded by these shooters who aren't athletic. He doesn't have like guys who are above the rim, guys taking off. I think they're going to play with pace. And he's got all these toys. And he's got Lonzo as kind of his passing sidekick. Ingram running the floor. Kuzma running the floor. He's got Rondo out there throwing. I think that team's going to run and be fun. And that might invigorate him. So I think that's the case.
I mean, like we talked about this before. I think the Lakers are going to be really good this year.
I do too.
I think they could crack 50 wins.
Their
but-
over-under's 48.5, which seems just... I almost feel like LeBron would have to get hurt for them not to get that.
you know that you just said something though about them playing with pace and how they keep saying it as if like LeBron's been this guy that the offenses
didn't want to do it.
He wants to run this dissecting slow offense. So whenever I see this stuff of they're gonna run. Okay, but he has to initiate that. I mean, that's on him. He's been really good at doing it the way he wants to do it. But I think you would agree when you look at everywhere he's gone, he'd rather back it out and just figure out where your help is.
So far, though, this preseason, so far at least, he's been really an example of how to push the pace, really moving the ball up the court either with his dribble or with the pass, outlimiting. And when he doesn't have the ball, actually sprinting up the court. Will he continue doing that? We'll see. But
against Perth, maybe.
So far, though, he is.
As I so often do, I'm going to bring Larry Bird into this. Ryan, you remember this? You were a young pup in the streets of New Hampshire, wandering looking for an equinox, Vermont.
New
Hampshire or Vermont?
No, back then,
New Hampshire,
Connecticut or Mass.
All right, so Larry Bird, last 2 years of his career, Chris Ford comes in. And they're like, we got to get more athletic.
Yeah,
we got to go fat.
Yeah.
So they drafted Brian Shaw. They had D. Brown. They had Rick Fox, Easy Ed Pinckney. And like, we're going to run. We're too slow.
It was like UNLV at the pro level.
And Bird embraced it. Bird's like, this is great. I have all these new toys. Let's go. And meanwhile, he's playing with like a 35-pound back brace. I think LeBron kind of wants to play this way. And this is the natural evolution of his career, is easy baskets versus constantly doing this with the shooters around him. I don't think that makes sense for him.
I totally buy it. I mean, LeBron had a pretty good quote recently where he said, you look at all the young guys on this roster, it would be stupid if we didn't play fast.
So you still think he's full of crap?
I've just seen so many athletes, not that I'm going to out-Celtic you here,
yeah.
But do you remember how bad the last stretch was offensively with Pierce and Twan? Just how bad it was. It wasn't just their three-point shots, and not so much the ones Pierce took, but like go back and look at three-point attempts all time in a season and how many times Twan was up there before we had this explosion. Like Antoine shouldn't have had. But the other thing he did,
he was the real 7 seconds or less, Antoine, but it was 28% shooting from three.
And the other thing is that like he and Paul early on were big-time complainers.
Yeah.
So one of the bigger issues was it never felt like Twan was getting back or didn't want to push. Like he didn't want to push it as much, even though he was this oddly talented player. That's if you looked at his paperwork now, you'd be like, anybody like this guy? And
he did not survive the advanced metrics revolution very well.
So when he got traded back, remember how weird that was? They brought him back.
Yeah, I liked it.
It was back for this little stretch. He was going to be super up-tempo guy for a really short amount of time. I remember watching it immediately because he was saying all the right things. And even after a make, he'd grab it, run to the baseline and like inbound it to whoever and then just get and start running. You're like, what do you do? Like,
this isn't
It was this concerted effort to do that. And I just think even though LeBron's saying all the right things and it makes sense with that roster and all that stuff, I still think when he gets back to his comfort zone, he's the guy that wants it 30 feet away from the hoop.
But do you think
and
his
it's always
comfort
worked too? So I'm not knocking it. It's just I'll wait to see.
Was his comfort zone like that because of the teams he was on? Because you got to
think how many different coaches though. All the different coaches. It's still always what he wanted to do.
But did he always want to do that, or did they not have any other choice? I guess is my question. Because initially it starts out Wade and Bosch and no other teammates. And then they have to start adding these role players. Like they had Mike Miller initially, then Ray Allen and James Jones. And it's just easier to get those Eddie House types than it is to get athletes.
Sure.
Goes to Cleveland. They bring in Kevin Love. They have Kyrie already. And then they're just bringing in vets because they're trying to win a title. This is totally different. To me, this is like maybe the kind of team he should have been on. And then you go back to the mid-2000s, late 2000s on Cleveland. They were always going old. They were always like Antoine Jameson, Ben Wallace,
Big
Shaq, Ilgauskas.
Wally.
He never had the right
that's a good one.
teammates. But in the All-Star game, it was always fun to watch him. Like, or even in the Olympics. Like, oh, man, look at LeBron. Having a great time.
I think that's part of the commitment he made to LA, where he's allowing them to continue building with a young team by not doing the one-on-one contracts where, they do have these young legs on the roster where they actually can play fast. But I do think, to your point, Ryan, like LeBron has liked to play slow. It's always been his preference. But I feel like watching preseason, you can never read too much into preseason, but he is playing fast, and he's made a consistent commitment after turnovers, after rebounds, and even after some makes to push the ball and play fast tempo. And even in the half court, he's playing at a fast tempo. They're running him through off-ball screens at times, using him in unique positions. He's playing differently with this roster, and that's been exciting to watch.
Less power cleans. He's been doing too.
Right. No, he's slimming down. Okay, so I think we've nailed what the LeBron thing. He doesn't have to be a one seed. It just has to be fun. It has to be deemed a success. That's pretty much it.
I think he needs to get in the high 50s to win the MVP.
You do.
I think he has to be.
I'd say 4 seed or higher. So I don't know what that'll be.
3 seed, like 56 to 57 wins.
Well, then I'm out.
I think this season could be a year where we have like an MVP that wins 48 games. Just feels like it could be that
You think if the Lakers
go
go 52-30, that's enough to win the MVP? What did Westbrook win that year?
That could be the 3 seed.
Like 54, 55?
The triple-double season that we cared about and the other one we didn't care about?
God, remember those triple-doubles? I remember that one time in Memphis. Just was wanting him to get that 10th rebound so bad. They were up 28. He was just throwing it off the backboard against himself.
Anthony Davis, we don't think he'd be high. The good thing that Davis has, like I used to always think the Heisman when we were growing up, because there wasn't any, we just didn't have access to information, is you had to have some sort of campaign. There had to be a carryover that you were on the radar for you to even win the Heisman the next year. Yeah. And now what's happened with all this information, and if you come into the season of college football as a favorite, then you're never going to win the Heisman.
It's bad.
Because the expectations for you're held to a different standard.
It's like A Star Is Born right now in the Oscars.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You don't want to peak. You don't want to peak in October.
Don't ruin the end. If I hear one more person say, "Oh my God, it's so," I almost did it to everybody here. Millions.
I keep hearing it too. It's like, geez,
just
let
back
off
off.
the movie, man.
What if Davis was awesome in New Orleans for 3 months and then got traded to the Lakers or Celtics and then took off even more? Nobody's ever won the MVP trading teams in the midseason. I would say it's more realistic for him to get traded than it is for him to win the MVP. There's Nephi Kyle over there.
He's here in the flesh.
So I think we're all on the same page with that.
Say
but
no on Davis.
But at least he has the carryover hype from people starting to suggest he's one of the top 3, if not at the time when he was playing against Portland and everything. You know, we started throwing around stuff like he's the best player in the league right now.
Well, the stuff, the 45 and 20s and
Right.
47 and 17s, like that was insane.
All right.
I mean,
I don't want to do Giannis yet. Harden, we're crossing off.
We did.
Are we writing off AD too early though?
Well,
From a statistical standpoint, if he's a defensive player of the year candidate,
4 seed, did it have to be a 4 seed?
And if he's putting up ridiculous offensive numbers,
He's going to. I mean, who else is scoring on
in
that
a
team?
year where maybe, let's say, the Bucks aren't what people expect them to be, or maybe the Lakers are like a 6 seed. I think there's a way for Anthony Davis to
Drew's
slip
healthy,
into that.
obviously.
They're breaking one of my rules, though. They're top 4. I'm not sure 3 of the 4 can play together. I don't know if Mirotic, Randall, and Davis can be on the court in the last 5 minutes of a game together. Like, who guards Jason Tatum or Brandon Ingram in that situation out of those 3
They're
guys?
going to have Drew Holiday tackle that guy.
Drew Holiday's just a 2x4.
In the 2 games they face the Celtics this
I
season.
just think the West is too good, and I think that Pelicans roster is too weird for them to get to a 4 seed. I got to say, I'm crossing them off. I'm crossing off Harden. I can't cross off Kawhi.
Kawhi should be higher. I think
Kawhi
that's
should
good.
be higher.
I think that's
I
a
would say
good number
Kawhi
there.
should be like
6 plus 950.
Yeah.
I think that's a good bet.
KD is 10-1. I don't see that hunger from him to win a second MVP. I don't. I see a hunger for him to be a huge global business person, to be a great player, to be on a great team. I think he's doing 5, 6, 7 different things. I don't see any of those 7 things like I'm trapping myself in a gym and I'm winning the MVP this year. I don't see it. Do you guys see it?
And not to mention, last season, KD played hardcore defense for maybe 2 weeks.
2 months.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah,
you
he did November, December.
and,
He
you know,
was going for Defensive Player of the Year, and then it stopped.
And it's not only that, it's the fact that Stephen Curry is on the roster too.
Yeah.
And those guys kind of cross each other out, I think.
I think it's almost too cushy. That
I don't-
team
how are you
to go
comfortable in-
6.5 months of it?
How are you comfortable enough to, or the guy turned 30 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like you are already ready to say that he's like ready. Like, I mean, just because he has the other interests, you think his focus, his hunger is not there.
No.
You feel comfortable saying that.
I'm not saying the focus hunger isn't there. I'm just saying when you win the MVP, like when he won in 14, he was like,
You're the real MVP.
when he won in 14, it was like, I want to win the MVP. That's the only thing on my mind right now. This is like, you're on this team that everyone thinks going to make the finals. You're out there, you're doing all these different shows and you're traveling the world and all that stuff. Meanwhile, Giannis, I just look at him compared to Giannis. It's like the beginning of Rocky 3. Giannis is just in the gym. Giannis is like, I'm winning the MVP this year. I've got a real coach.
Like, this sounds familiar. It sounds like a montage.
He's like Clubber Lang. He's just by himself in the
Like, this doesn't sound like when the nerds clean the place up and paint it. It sounds like a different 80s movie.
He's got a real coach. He's got a real coach who's going to play with pace. Did you see those pace stats?
Oh, yeah. I put those in my
You put
article
those in your
today.
thing.
Yeah.
Coach Buds.
Top 10 almost every year.
If you tweet one more time about how excited you are about Bud's offense with Giannis, the Bucks are gonna get a restraining order on you.
I've only tweeted it once, retweeted
really?
a couple of times.
Well, it was impactful because when you sent it out, I was like, that's something to think
There's
about.
some stuff to like about the Bucks this year because Middleton's in a contract year. They went from the worst coach in the league to an above average coach. Giannis is saying and doing all the right things. And they're in the right conference. They're in a conference where one of these teams is going to jump, and they are the best candidate, I think, to get to like a 3 seed.
Can I propose a conspiracy theory?
Yeah.
Ooh. Double agent.
Giannis?
Eric Bledsoe.
Oh.
Clutch. Yeah. LeBron.
Ooh.
Like, hey, don't pass to Giannis a ton. We're winning the MVP.
Scale it back a little?
Yeah.
Double agent.
Yeah.
I like Bucks fan watching Bledsoe. Yeah.
I like that you urinated on my KD is spread too thin with all these different things, and now you're calling Eric Bledsoe a double agent for clutch.
Bucks fans last season might agree with you.
Just saying at the end. Yeah.
Here's Curry Durant probably. It's just too. They're both the best player in that team. It's too hard to split. I don't see either of them standing out over the other to a degree that one would win the MVP, but the other wouldn't.
Like the Pac-12 vote.
Embiid. He'd have to play 72 games. They'd have to win 60.
I don't think it's a terrible call.
No,
I mean, it's
stay
not
healthy.
Like, there's other ones I have a better argument against. I mean, if he continues to be the guy, and I think when you factor in the hunger, they should be really pissed off about last year because that was ugly in the playoffs.
And they should be pissed off that people are counting him out this year.
Yeah. So I actually look at Embiid as somebody that I can, in my head, figure out that storyline a lot easier. There's less challenges there for him. He's not going to be held to a standard that he's already achieved. Okay, that's one. There's still a newness to this Sixers thing. That's fine. Even though they won all those games, especially at the end of the year when everybody's trying to lose, like the fact they ended up being a 3 seed, but they didn't go like far enough in the playoffs that you go, okay, this is this. Like I don't look at any part of them as any kind of disappointment because I was incredibly wrong because I just didn't think young teams that have never played together would have their kind of success. Like I thought they were sort of ahead of schedule. It's still his team. The other superstar is a very passive, not to say that Simmons is like a beta guy, but he's willing to defer to Embiid because we don't really know what his offense is right now. So I think there's a really easy way to figure like if we're sitting here halfway through the season going Embiid's dominating this league and he's totally healthy and they're a top 2 or top 3 seed in the East, that's totally realistic.
From a talent standpoint, you go down the rest of this list and it's like Westbrook, Ben Simmons, Donovan Mitchell, Damian Lillard, Towns, Oladipo.
I don't think Westbrook will ever win another one.
No, none of those guys. No, make the case for Kyrie, Ryan.
So here's the thing. You look at Kyrie not playing, getting hurt, coming back. He's going to put up sick numbers. I understand that Tatum's development will take away some of his opportunities. Hayward being back, that's fine. Horford might not take a shot the first month of the season.
Right.
Okay. So there's a lot of other guys that I know that can get in the way of Kyrie's numbers, but he's still going to be getting you, I would imagine, 20 plus a game. It's Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
And if they're the clear number 1 seed and it's this redemptive Celtics, because even last year with them, having the seeding that they've had the last couple of years, all of us knew it was a really fluky Celtics team as far as like, wow, this is a great story. This is incredible. But are they really this good? If they're a juggernaut version of everybody being healthy and they're the number 1 team in the East and it's clear like we all think they're going to come out of the East and the LeBron run is over and that Kyrie ended up winning the LeBron divorce in a way, which you could even argue he has. Well, no, he has to get out of the East for that to happen. So I don't want to go too far. But for him to be the 9th best odds, that to me is selling a Kyrie, the best version of the Kyrie story short.
Well, and also if they're a 1 seed and they go 66-16,
that's what I mean.
Just the best team.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody from this team is going to be an MVP candidate. He's the best bet.
If there's a legitimate thought, whoa, this Celtics team could actually beat Golden State, then he can be the narrative MVP if there's no other standout.
So what does a Kyrie MVP season look like? Because I think part of it has to be the Celtics just rolling through the league, which is possible with their depth. I think they're going to potentially be up by like 25-30 in a lot of these games. They also have the Rozier Smart thing where they could just be like, Kyrie, you're off tonight. Just take the night off. We'll see you 2 days from now. But I think the right season for him, it would have to be super efficient. It would have to be like 25 a game.
Like Isaiah Thomas.
But a 50-40-90 type or 50-40-85, something like that. Not a lot of shots, gets to the line, just everything is just at the highest level. he's not going to average 30. He's not going to be like a high volume, whatever. I think it would be almost like that LeBron season in 13, which I thought was his best season when he was flirting with 60% field goal for 2-3 months. Remember that?
Yeah.
It would have to be something like that where we're looking at the math of the Kyrie season and going, holy shit, look at Kyrie shooting 55%. He's a point guard. Other than that, I don't see it.
I'm just not sure that's going to be enough because voters care about the win total, of course, as you mentioned earlier, but they also care about numbers. And if he's 24-6 with super high efficiency, yeah, that'll be impressive, but I'm not sure it'll be enough to earn the votes.
So let's go back to Giannis because that's the last thing, and then
what if Kyrie though helps get voter registration up? The state
that
of
would help,
Massachusetts.
and a good DVD commentary on the what was that movie called? Uncle Drew. A hilarious DVD
Celtic
Blu-ray
Pride?
commentary. No, whatever the
When they kidnapped Damon Wayans. You don't talk about that movie a lot. You should do the rewatchables on that.
It's not great. I'm happy to do it with you, but it's not a great movie.
No, I want to do Fear. I'm serious. You guys are laughing.
It's a great one.
Right.
It's like,
Why are you looking at me weird, Kevin?
Kevin's
I'm
like,
totally
he doesn't have
serious.
fear.
I'm good.
Giannis 5-1.
Yeah.
What's the roadmap? So he averaged 26 a game last year, or 27, right?
Mhm.
27, 10, and 5 almost.
Something like that, yeah.
Now, if they boost the possessions up by, I don't know, if he's getting 6-7 more possessions a game potentially, is that too many?
Yeah,
3?
that's too many.
4?
We'll call it 4.
2 more shots a game could he get?
Depends on how the offense runs. I think it could be more
Can he get to 30 a game?
I think it's for playmaking with him.
Okay.
I think that's what it could be. If they're running more pick and roll,
So you'd be
faster-paced
shocked if he had
offense,
30 a game?
better space. I wouldn't be shocked, but I think it's more the gains could come in the assist column more than anything else.
30's tough. We see 27 a lot. 30 is another animal.
I mean, think about
it's really hard to get to 30 a game every night, night after night. It's 2,400 points.
It's
Plus.
doable though, because with the floor spacing, it's going to be easier for him to get to the rim, easier for him to draw fouls, easier for him to finish, but also easier for him to kick out to shooters, to Brook Lopez, to Ersan Ilyasova, to Middleton. They don't have a lot
Why
of
didn't the Lakers
knockdown-
sign Brook Lopez? Did we ever figure that out? Why isn't he on their team?
Lopez is fine. He's a fine player.
Would you rather have him or the freaking weirdos that? Would you rather have him or JaVale McGee?
You'd probably rather have Brook Lopez.
Yeah. Every time.
Have you seen JaVale McGee in the preseason?
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
He was incredible that one night. What was
Wow.
that?
Is he better than Kedrick Brown in 2003?
He has been pretty good. I think with McGee, it's he still can't make that pass on the short roll.
I'm looking at
You know,
some of the, not to stay on Kyrie here, but I wanted to double check because I think whenever you guys are referencing the PER numbers for an MVP, like there's another tier.
Yeah, it's high 20s.
Yeah,
usually,
high
at least.
20s. And Kyrie last year in 60 games was at 25. And the numbers are pretty good. I mean, he was at 25 a game. He was at almost 50%, 40% from the field in threes, 25, 6 assists, 4. But like there's some decent numbers there. But like that's where Giannis has the advantage here because I'm sure if I go back and find Giannis exactly on
the
PER,
Giannis,
the
the arc
PER
of-
stuff,
yeah,
it's
it's
going to
going-
be, I don't think Kyrie can touch
Arc's
that.
going this way.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
defense.
And we've seen it
I don't
over and
think
over
it's-
again with the best players.
I will definitely defer to Giannis's defense over Kyrie's.
Well, KOC, you think they'll
Although
play him
Kyrie
at center?
played better D last year, I thought.
Giannis.
Yeah.
I think we'll see him in more lineups.
Little
at
small
center.
ball 5?
But there's the necessity to do that isn't there as much either. That was
Yeah.
one of the points in my article today where it's like, well, with Lopez and or Ilyasova, you can play big but continue to space the floor. Whereas last season with Milwaukee, the only way they could space the floor 5 out was Giannis at the 5. They can continue to play big with Giannis at the 4.
He's 27 and 10, 5.
Already.
Yeah, 1.5 boards, 1.5 blocks, 1.5 steals. The field goal percentage thing. Like if he starts hitting, like does he have to hit an acceptable level of threes for us to like him as voters?
32% is that's all you need, I think.
But does it even matter though? What if he just doesn't take? Like, that's the thing I wonder about with him and the voters. If he just doesn't take threes, and we're also obsessed with it, if voters would hold that against him,
Could he
which
get
seems stupid if the other numbers are this good and heading on that arc.
Could he get to 30, 12, and 6? It's not
I
unrealistic.
think so. I mean, he'd be my pick.
So then he becomes this statistical thing, approval ratings through the roof. Like there's no anti-Giannis stuff.
First team all defense.
This is early Durant now.
Yeah.
When Durant was so popular because he was awesome and because he was Durant, but my theory, I don't even think it's a theory, it's fact, is that because he was the anti-LeBron, then we all rushed to be like, man, Durant gets it. Durant gets it. And Giannis
He's loyal. He loves OKC, man.
Giannis is, it was, first of all, there was a lockout coming, so no one knew what was going on.
He never did the decision.
All right, everybody decided to go, I'm going to take every extension I possibly could. Like, the only choice Durant made was the one you had to make at that time.
He loves to hoop, man.
Yeah.
He just loves his city and basketball.
4 years, $100 million. Slight discount.
Yeah, we like discounts. There's just no anti-Giannis stuff out there. There just isn't. No. So that's a huge advantage for him.
So we don't know who's going to win the MVP, but we do know what we think is the best bet. I say it's Giannis plus 500. KOC, what's your final pick for best bet?
Giannis.
And Ryan, you go Kyrie plus 1,500 or Giannis
No, I'll go
500?
Kawhi. I'll go Kawhi at plus 950. That to me, again, to get caught up in the beginning when I screwed up the way this was formatted, but I'd seen Harden fourth everywhere. So Harden should not be ahead of Kawhi as an MVP odds.
Fair.
You're completely ruling out the fact that those voters that flirted with it before, maybe voted for him, thought they were wrong. Finally, he gets his MVP, and then we watched him miss shots for 2 straight games.
What about Blake Griffin, 225 to 1?
A lot of value.
Detroit gets to a 3 seed. All right, check out Ryen Russillo on Dual Threat, his new podcast on The Ringer. Check out
good.
Kevin O'Connor on Tuesdays and Fridays on The Ringer NBA show. You named your Tuesday show, The Mismatch.
Oh, yeah, that's probably going to be the name. I think we officially named it. You guys approved it?
I just
Sounds like it just happened.
I just named it right now.
Cool, that's it.
The Mismatch is great. We don't have a Friday pod yet.
Yeah, we got to figure
and
that
then
out.
check out the Ringer MLB show this week. Me and Jacko will be on that one talking Red Sox Yankees. So until then, thank you guys. Let's talk about Hotel Tonight. Here's a little insider travel secret from our friends at Hotel Tonight. There are tons of empty hotel rooms out there just waiting to be booked. Hotel Tonight is partnered with these awesome hotels to help them sell their unsold rooms, which means you get incredible deals. Forget scrolling through never-ending lists. Hotel Tonight shows you a select list of incredible deals at cool hotels they'll think you love. And they even give you short profiles of each hotel, complete with all the info you need and pictures of what the rooms really look like. And it's not just for last-minute bookings either. Book in advance, spontaneous weekend getaways, 3-day weekends, staycations, road trips, business trips, whatever you want. I'm doing it this weekend because my daughter has a soccer game that's really, really far away. You know who's my friend in these situations? Hotel Tonight. Start scoring amazing deals at incredible hotels. Go to hoteltonight.com or download the app right now. Here it is, John C. Reilly, who's in the studio yesterday, actually. Really fun interview. So glad we did this. Here he is. All right, John C. Reilly is here. What an honor. You were always on the list. You don't do that much. Yeah, you don't do that much.
Wow. I think it's always funny when people say, like, we wanted you for our movie, but
we
went with the John C. Reilly type instead. And I was like, wait, I was available. Would have come a long time ago.
Well, I remember.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Oh, I've been dying to do this with you. I remember at Grantland, we did a Boogie Nights oral history, and we tried to get a hold of you, and it was like, yeah, he doesn't really keep it unless he's
I read that.
Keeps low profile.
I read it was good.
It was.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it is just best to let the work speak for itself.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Especially Paul's movies. He and I had such an intense, we still do, we're very close friends, but making those movies was such an intense personal, almost like a family effort, you know?
Yeah.
So to talk about it after the fact, outside of it, I don't know. Every once in a while I'll tell stories or something from my experiences on those movies, but.
Well, now that all these years have passed, it must be like almost nostalgic. I mean, Boogie Nights was now 22 years ago. Hard Eight was 24 years ago.
I must be old. I haven't counted lately, but the funny thing about Boogie Nights actually is that movie seemed like nostalgic when it came out.
Yeah,
because the way Paul shot it had this 70s look to the film and stuff. It seemed like an old movie already when it was a new movie.
When you did Hard Eight with him, and that was. He talked about it when he was on here about, you have this dream to make your own movie and then the studio's messing with it and doing all these things. But could you see the talent with him right away?
Oh, yeah. I can see the talent just from reading that script.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really apparent. I was like, I remember sitting down to meet with him because he actually asked me to go to the Sundance Filmmakers Workshop with him, which is this thing they do at Sundance where in the summertime where they give up and coming filmmakers a chance to work on a few scenes on video with professional people and sort of get their feet wet with the filmmaking process. So I remember meeting with him when I was considering to do that. And my first reaction was like, I'm not going to filmmaker boot camp. Like, I already make movies. Like, I worked really hard to be able to make movies. Like, I don't need to go to summer camp for filmmakers, which was a really stupid attitude to take. And then I read Paul's script and I was like, oh my God, like the guy's a total natural. Like, and I sat down with him in Studio City when we first met and I was like, you don't have an agent? He's like, no. I was like, man, wait till get ready. Yeah. Wait till people start, checking out your work. And that was before we shot anything. It was just what he'd written. But it was really clear from the very first time I met Paul and the very first time we worked together that he was a total natural. He already had everything operating, all the different aspects of filmmaking. And I don't know if he told you about this, but he wrote this. He had an assignment when he was a little kid. I think he was 8 years old.
Yeah.
And the assignment was go home and write what job you want when you grow up and why you should be hired for that job. And he wrote in amazing handwriting for an 8-year-old, actually. It's like cursive writing. It says, my name is Paul Thomas Anderson. I want to be a writer, a director, and a special effects man. Hire me. I'm the man for the job. When he's 8. I mean, I was still like wondering what I was going to do for a living when I was finishing college. But yeah. So Paul's a real natural for sure. That's one of those cases where that cliched term, a natural, really, really applies.
Where did you grow up? Where are you from?
Chicago. I'm from the south side of Chicago.
And then where'd you go? You went to DePaul, right?
Yeah, I went to the DePaul.
Right after basketball kind of turned for them? You weren't there for
exactly.
You weren't there for Ray Meyer, right?
No, I think Ray Meyer Jr. might have been there.
When Joey Meyer.
Yeah. Joey Meyer. Yeah. But that was a whole other world to me. That whole DePaul. Actually, I went to a thing called the Goodman School of Drama, which was they later changed the name to the Theater School at DePaul University when the Goodman family decided they didn't want their name associated with a Catholic university because it used to be at the Art Institute, the Goodman School. But anyway, so I went to this sort of conservatory program that was similar to like a Juilliard or one of those real professional training programs for actors. And we were our own little campus within DePaul. Yeah. So we would go and take academic classes and stuff there in order to get our degrees. But I was as far from DePaul basketball as you could be while attending DePaul University.
You weren't wearing the Mark Aguirre jersey around classes?
I wasn't really interested in sports at all when I was a kid. I wrestled when I was young, and occasionally, like if a Chicago team was doing well, I would like pay attention. But when I was in college, I was like all acting all the time. I was studying theater history, and I was just really immersed in trying to be an actor.
Did you want to be like a theater actor or movie actor?
That was my plan. That's what I thought, because I didn't have any reference points in my life for any. Like I remember being a kid and going to see movies and just thinking like, "Wow, Gene Hackman is Popeye Doyle," I would watch them. And I didn't know any actors. I didn't know any actors, let alone theater actors or let alone movie actors. So when I would watch movies, I'd be like, wow, I would just completely buy the illusion. I didn't understand how it was all done and how it was made and that these people were pretending. I just kind of went there. And then I kept doing theater. I did a lot of musicals when I was a kid. And then all through high school, did community theater and that kind of thing. And then when I went to college, I was like ready to try to be a serious actor, a dramatic actor, like try to learn some of the stuff that, because where I grew up on the South Side was all musicals and that kind of thing. It was no one was doing Shakespeare or Ibsen or, or whatever, even any kind of dramatic plays. It was all sort of feel good sort of stuff.
Were you doing improv there too? Because Chicago's such a big improv city.
Yeah, that's my first acting class at the Goodman was, or at DePaul was an improv class. And it was really when I really came to life and I realized like, oh, like it can be this, like, And it's funny because the first acting class I ever went to when I was 8 years old at the park near my house, Marquette Park, where I grew up, was improv based too.
Yeah.
The teacher was just having us do all these theater games, and then we took all these kind of improvised sketches that we'd done and turned them into a show called Comedy Tonight. And so he did like sang songs from other musicals and like did these sketches. So it's funny that like these linchpin moments for me as an actor were through improvisation, which is another way of saying like feeling empowered enough as an actor to feel like you have a voice and what you have to contribute is just as valuable as a script or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
That's a big leap to make in your mind. And some of my best work has come with people that believed in me in that way. I remember Lasse Hallström was one of the first people. Brian De Palma, my first movie, he used to let me improvise all the time.
Oh yeah, Casualty of War.
Yeah,
Casualties of War.
He would let me kind of like add this or that, you know, like not wholesale improvisation like I was doing later. But Lasse Hallström, when I did What's Eating Gilbert Grape, he just let me go off. He would just, it was so freeing. And then by the time I met Paul Anderson, you know, I realized like this is a great way to work. That said, I really like it when a script is really well written and a director insists on the script being the script. When the script is not well written and people insist that you do the script, that's kind of a nightmare. But most smart people, when something's coming out clunky or it's hard to memorize, that's always like a little like canary in the coal mine thing with dialogue. If you can't memorize it for some reason, it means that it's not written right. It's not written in a rhythm that's natural to human thought and speech, you know.
But so I get all that, but what's weird is that you can also dive into this McKay Farrell world.
Yeah,
where
it's the
McKay
same
is just
thing.
like riff, go, 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 which is complete opposite from sticking to a script.
Oh, right. Yeah. The opposite of that. Yeah.
Because there's not that many people who can do both at the highest level.
Name one besides me.
So Catherine Hahn, she was on here.
Yeah. Okay.
She's
I'll
a friend of the pod, but she's another one. She can do. She has this whole path, and she can do the improv.
I'll never
and the whole
forget
thing.
when she came in to audition for Step Brothers, and they asked me to come, and you know, because I had to be so intimate with her, I have these crazy sexual scenarios with her and stuff. They asked me to come in, just make sure that you know the chemistry was good and stuff. And I would just remember like my hair bits being blown back.
Yeah,
I was like, I hadn't met a woman other than Molly Shannon up to that point who could do what Will and I were doing, you know, who was willing to be as chaotic,
right,
and just jump in both feet and just who cares? It doesn't matter what, you know, like it doesn't matter what was planned. We'll just find something, you know. And she was just dazzling. Catherine was dazzling that first audition. I was like, holy crap! And then her ferocity. You can see it in the movie. She's so intense. Like she would attack these ideas, and oh my god, it's pretty hard to shock me with that kind of stuff. And she blew me away, man. I mean, she makes my performance in a lot of ways in the movie that she's so intense. It gave me something to play off of.
Right.
know?
So I just saw her. She was in this Netflix movie about this couple trying to get pregnant with Paul Giamatti.
Mm-hmm.
Just a dramatic movie. And it's like she's doing the dramatic route. And then like Step Brothers will come on 2 hours later and she's a maniac. But I've always been impressed when people were able to do that. What's more fun for you? Because it seems like you love theater too.
Oh, what's more fun between
just like
film
what's your
and
favorite
theater?
thing to do? Because you have like these 3 paths that you can kind of veer down at any time.
Wait, what are the 3?
Well, you have theater,
Film, comedy.
you have comedy, and then you have like these serious dramatic movies.
Oh, right. Well, it's all the same to me. I mean, I'm just trying to be as honest as I can be from moment to moment and really plug in and believe the circumstances that the character is in and really make it feel personal and real.
So it's all character driven.
Pretty much. Or it's basically the same thing I was doing when I was 8 years old in that improv class. Like,
yeah,
you just suspend your disbelief and then if the circumstances you're in are ridiculous, then you're in a comedy. And if they're not ridiculous, then you're in a more dramatic thing. But in terms of what I'm doing to get myself to feel like I believe what's going on, it's really similar to like, I remember like in that first acting class, there's this amazing guy named Jim Morley, who was my very first theater kind of teacher or whatever when I was a kid. And he's like, okay, everyone lay down on the floor. Now we're all going to be pieces of bacon, okay? Everyone's on the floor. You're just an uncooked piece of bacon, okay? Now you're in the pan. I'm turning up the heat. What happens to bacon when the pan gets hot? And all of a sudden we start like bubbling around like pieces of bacon. And I remember like it was literally the first thing we did in that class. And I remember going, my people. Like I found my people like that. I looked around the room and I was like, oh, everyone's into this as much as I am. I found my people. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Because before that, I was kind of, I don't know, I was sort of this like Zelig character. I would kind of shift between groups from the burnouts to the jocks to the, you know, and mostly I was just really mischievous, like kind of breaking windows and whatever, drinking wine on the railroad tracks at 11 years old and stuff like that. And theater and acting gave me like a way to be mischievous that was positive and productive and didn't involve getting arrested.
Was there an energy in Chicago in the 80s? Because it was like the Belushi Murray, like the decade before?
That Belushi and Bill Murray were more like people who were more into comedy were really, I mean, of course, I revered those guys as much as anybody, you know, Animal House and Meatballs and all those kind of Stripes and all those amazing movies those guys did. But by the time I got into college, like in the 80s, like I graduated high school in 83. By the time I got into college, I was like, I saw improv as a thing that had infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about getting the laugh. And there was a whole kind of movement in Chicago at Second City and Improv Olympic and places like that with very talented Tina Fey, Adam McKay, Steve Carell, like you name it, Stephen Colbert, like all these people.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying it as a criticism, but those guys were more chasing the laugh. Their job every night was get the audience to laugh. And when I got involved in improv and acting school, it was, no, just go there. Even if you end up crying or you end up in an angry thing or whatever, just improv means like really letting go, not knowing at all what's going to happen next. So the people I was revering at that time were like John Malkovich, Gary Sinise, all the Steppenwolf guys, Billy Peterson, who was at the Remains Theater at the time. Like those were the titans in my world. Like I remember Malkovich just like being so inspiring. He did this production of Curse of the Starving Class, the Sam Shepard play, which I also did in college eventually. But I remember like the rumor was like Malkovich peed on stage every night for real. Because there's this one part where the brother in that play deliberately pees on his sister's drawings to mess with her. And when I did it in college, I had this little bladder thing inside my pants so I could fake it. And we were just like, Malkovich did it for real. Malkovich peed on cue in front of an audience every night. Like, it's amazing. Like, so that was like my Laurence Olivier.
So your first movie, it's Brian De Palma, it's Sean Penn, and it's Michael J. Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Like those were three titans. This is your first job.
Yeah, it was the first time I had been on an airplane. It was the first time I left the Midwest.
First time you've been on an airplane?
Yeah.
Really?
First time I'd ever been in a movie. First time I'd ever been on an airplane. I actually met my wife, who I've been married to now 26 years, on that movie.
Wow.
She was working for Sean Penn at the time. Yeah. And so between Sean, Brian De Palma, and Art Linson, the producer of that movie, those guys are really the reason I'm here.
He wrote a famous book, Art Linson.
Yeah.
He wrote a book about like his whole experience. It was one of the better Hollywood books.
Yeah. He's an amazing guy. And those guys believed in me. You know, I was originally cast as just one day's work on that movie. And then someone got fired and they moved me up to a cameo part, which was like a whole big, nice scene. And then someone else got fired and I got moved into one of the leads of the movie because I had been so committed in rehearsal, you know, like a lot of the guys in that movie were trying to like out macho each other and trying to out Sean Penn, you know? And I was like, you're out of your minds. Like, this guy's a brilliant actor. Why would you want to be more, aren't we like playing make-believe here? Why are you guys trying to out drink, you know, and out
macho Sean Penn?
Yeah, like it's just stupid. Like, let's just. So a couple of those people got fired, and based on my commitment and really my theater background, because when we were doing these rehearsals in the room for that movie, when we first got together in these conference rooms in Thailand, I was just like, yeah, well, I got this tiny little part, but if you need me to do anything else, and like, yeah, here, there's this old Vietnamese man who we don't have an old Vietnamese man here today. So John, here, you just read this part, and I would just fully commit to it as if that was my part, and I guess it was pretty funny. The commitment of it was pretty funny, but then it really, I don't know. I've never really talked to Sean directly about it because I was always kind of really grateful that Sean gave me that leg up, and he vouched for me. When Brian made the decision we need someone for this part now, we fired this other guy. Who are we going to put? Should we cast John Reilly? Sean said, yeah, he can do it. He didn't insist that I get the part, but he made it possible for me to get the opportunity. And then I did my second and third movies with Sean also. So I was
Which ones were those? I can't remember.
We're No Angels and State of Grace.
Oh, yeah.
And so those movies I also had to audition for and get. And I was just, I don't know, I'm a proud guy from Chicago. And part of me was like, I don't want anyone to think that Sean Penn just gave me this as a favor, or he got me in and made people. I want to be there on my own merits, So I was always really careful, like, to keep my relationship with Sean just professional, and I realized with Sean, like, I was either going to be his peer, and we were working with people like Robert De Niro, and so I realized, okay, I'm not going to be his peer. I'm not Robert De Niro, but I also didn't want to be like his bitch.
Yeah,
I didn't want to be like his boy,
his lackey that he brought there.
So I just sort of kept my distance and did my thing and stuck to my guns and did what I knew how to do as an actor and tried to, it was important to me to feel like I earned my spot, that it wasn't given to me. But that said, I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for Sean. I wouldn't. He taught me so much about acting in those first three movies, and acting in movies in particular.
Was he one of the, like, in Casualties of War, was he like in character even when you guys weren't filming? Is he one of those actors?
Yeah, he lived in another hotel from everybody. He took this sergeant role, which is a leadership role. You're not meant to socialize with the men. There's all these military dictates about the way you're supposed to behave if you're a sergeant, and he definitely acted
he changed his face and his voice. Like he definitely tried to transform himself a little bit.
He does that almost every movie, I think. But I remember we were doing this scene where we were demanding to leave the base because we wanted to go to the whorehouse. It's kind of the engine that creates that whole story. And we're doing this scene where the guard stops us, says, "No, you guys can't go to town. We have an agreement with the VC. They get the whorehouse tonight. Yeah. You guys can't." And we only have 1 day of leave, and we flip out. And we're screaming at the guard and whatever. And so we're doing the master shot of that scene, and I'm just going for it, like full on energy, like full commitment. That's all I know how to do. And Sean, after a couple takes, he just leans over. He's like, "Yeah, you ought to save a little bit for the close up. Just remember, like, this is just the master." And I was like, "What? What? You're telling me not to go full out?" And I was like, oh. And then I realized, we got like 8 more setups of this scene.
Yeah.
And if I just scream my head off and expend all my energy on this giant wide shot, then when it comes time to actually do the coverage, I'm going to be either hoarse, or I'm just not going to have that same inspiration as I had.
It's like an athlete.
Days.
Like, you don't want to burn out in the first 5 minutes of the game.
Here's another Sean Penn trick that he taught me. He was like, if you are he didn't tell me this, I just know it from watching him work. We're doing scenes in State of Grace, and he's on the telephone, and there was this whole thing like, "Hold on, we're not ready to shoot at the telephone booth yet," because Sean's character is calling somebody and is having this phone call, and we're not ready to shoot. We have to get the other line set up. Like, what do you mean other line? What are you talking about? Like, Sean, his assistant is going to be on the phone so that when he calls from that payphone, there's someone on the phone. It's not the other actor who's in the scene with Sean, but it's going to be someone else on the other. And it's the greatest acting trick ever, because if you can see it now, next time you watch a movie, look, when someone's on the telephone, you'll know immediately whether there's someone on the other end of the line or whether they're faking it. Even the greatest actors, it's very, very hard. because there's all this unconscious behavior that happens when you're on the phone that you're not doing intentionally.
Yeah.
You're listening and you're trying, and this information is coming in your ear and going in your brain. So, and it's very, very hard to fake. And so Sean just showed me, like, just have someone on the other end. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass for production. Like, it takes a little bit more time to set that up, but it pays dividends like you wouldn't believe. Yeah. So,
Smart.
Anyway.
So then you go from that.
A little free tip for actors out there.
That's a good one. Let's take a break to talk about FanDuel. Football season is underway, and I already have major regrets about my daily fantasy performance this season. And it's getting that way, too, with my season-long fantasy teams. Jay Ajayi went out for the year. What am I going to do? I don't have a running back. Well, the good news is I still have daily fantasy. I am so excited to be playing on FanDuel all season. You get the excitement of researching and building your team each week, regardless of the outcome. Plus, FanDuel has never been more fun or easy to play. I've been playing in their Gridiron Pick'em contest every week. It's a free contest. All you need to do is pick winners, no spreads, 10K split amongst the top pickers. I can't brag about my other FanDuel performances in the single entry contest because I have been terrible all year. Maybe this will be the week it turns around. I've tried other DFS sites before. If you're not a fantasy expert, FanDuel clearly the place to play. Plus, new users get a $5 bonus when they make the first deposit. Come play with me at FanDuel.com/BS. Then you have Johnny Depp and Leo.
Yeah. Leo was 17 years old when we did What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Yeah. He turned 18 on that movie.
He's amazing in that movie. That movie is really good.
Oscar
but he's
thought
like,
so.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it was one of those movies between that and This Boy's Life. You just go, all right, Leo's going to be in my life now for 40 years.
He's the only person, and he did it when he was 17 years old, the only person who's ever, in my opinion, done a successful impression of me.
Really?
Yes, and he just did it on the fly, right to my face. We're on the set of Gilbert Grape. I was like, you little shit. Like, it was incredible. I mean, Leo is really, I don't even think people have seen half the stuff he can do. He's got amazing moves. He's an amazing mimic for human behavior. And anyway, I thought he was so good in The Revenant. Do you see that?
Oh my God.
Just killed it in that movie.
Well, when Paul Thomas Anderson was here, we were talking about the fork in the road where he was almost the Boogie Nights, the Mark Wahlberg part, and he turned it down.
Leo down and was like, listen, man, I know they're telling you to do this Titanic movie, but that movie is about a boat that sinks, and everyone knows the boat sinks.
Yeah.
And where's the drama? No one's going to give a shit about the people on that boat. Okay. It's about the boat. It's a famous boat story. Okay. Come and do Boogie Nights with us. He's like, I don't know. I guess so. I'm not sure. And then whatever. We all made the choices we made. And I don't think Leo has any regret. It's definitely that movie.
He actually, ironically enough, he said he did regret it.
Oh, well, there you go.
He said like a year ago. For him. No, he said like a year ago. It was his one regret with the decision. Now,
well, I tried to warn him.
You tried to tell him. I think he has conflicted thoughts about Titanic.
Did great things for him and allowed him to do all kinds of stuff. You know, Boogie Nights, it could have done the same great things for him, but maybe not. You know, like definitely a lot more people saw Titanic than Boogie Nights.
Oh, hell yeah. I think he was kind of paralyzed by Titanic a little bit. I think that's why he was looking back like, maybe that's not a great thing. Because that movie was so big.
Yeah.
It's almost like he became too famous from it and he had to kind of scale it back because he was like you. He cared about doing the work, you know? And it was like when you become that famous, it's really hard to operate in the world.
Well, the next time I give him advice, I hope he listens to me.
It would have been really interesting.
I was totally wrong about Titanic, by the way.
I was totally going to say, wrong. Yeah.
People were definitely interested in what happens in that movie, and it wasn't about the boat.
Yeah, but even when they were making the movie, people were saying that it wasn't going to do well. Oh my God, this is going to be one of the biggest bombs ever. Why are they doing this? It's so expensive. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody ever knows.
Oh, well.
And then you got to work with Mark Wahlberg, who also became a giant famous actor.
I know. What's my problem?
I would say you get credit out of
famous actors by the people I work with.
It seems like you caught a lot of people at the right times. Now, like somebody like Costner was already super famous when you worked with him, but especially the first part of your career, you were hitting all these people at good points in their career, which is nice.
Yeah.
Boogie Nights. When did you know that was gonna? I mean, obviously the script was amazing, super ambitious. There's a million characters. They're shooting it in like 60 days. Was there any point in that where you're going, I don't know, this might have been too ambitious?
No. By the time we did Boogie Nights, I was so deep in Paul's camp. You know, he and I were like thick as thieves by that point. I was as true a believer. You know the way Reed Rothschild is with Dirk Diggler in that movie? That's the way I was with Paul. I would do anything for Paul. I still would. I still would do anything for Paul because I believed and do believe in him so much. Like, that was someone I could really be loyal to because he was just a genius. And I knew what we were doing was very difficult. And we had a whole, almost a year of people saying, no. No one wanted to touch this whole porn idea. Oh, porn stars are, that's dirty and blah, blah, blah. Now the whole world has turned into porn.
Right.
But back then, believe it or not, it was really hard to get someone to play that part because most people in Hollywood, the agents and those types were, and I think including Mark's agent or manager or somebody was like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't do this. And then Paul and I had to kind of convince him. We brought him in, me and Phil Hoffman and Mark all were improvising together and stuff. And it was clear it was going to be a lot of fun. But I knew like that movie was so much fun and felt so subversive and so crazy that I knew like we got something good here.
Yeah.
That we better finish this before they realize what they paid for. Because this is like, and all my best work has always felt like that. Like, hurry up and finish before they realize what they allowed us to do,
Yeah.
And Boogie Nights was definitely that. And then it was a struggle when it first came out to get, and Mark wasn't such a huge star then. And, it was.
Burt Reynolds was kind of distanced himself from it initially. And then I think he realized it was.
Yeah. And then everyone's told him how great he was in it.
When Paul was on here, he was talking about the fight that the scene when Dirk Diggler and Jack Horner, the Burt Reynolds character, when they have the fight in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm the biggest star here. And he was saying how some off the set stuff spilled into that scene because there was like some macho stuff going on with Burt and Mark. And it was like one of the only times in his career, the stuff that was happening off the set kind of ended up in the movie in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It seemed like Burt Reynolds was an interesting point of his career.
Yeah, God rest his soul, man. That guy.
What a run. It was great reading all the
and if you look at
stories
how
about
long
him.
Handsome guys last in Hollywood now, like how many years do you really get as being like the sexiest man alive or whatever?
It's like 8 to 10.
Yeah, and Burt was like on top for like 25 years or something.
He was the biggest star when I was a kid.
Not all of it was great art, a lot of it was Smokey and the Bandit and these kind of like popular popcorn movies, but he was the guy women wanted to sleep with for a long time. And with that, when people tell you you're that, of course you come to believe it because everyone tells you that. You're a god, you're macho, you're sexy, you're the top of the heap. Like when you have a 25-year run like that, I don't know if it's actually 25 years, but it was longer than most.
It was like 15 solid.
So yeah, I would imagine it's pretty difficult to age when you've been living that kind of life. Where me, I look like a 50-year-old guy when I was 18 years old. So now I'm just kind of becoming the person I was always meant to be. It was weird. Like I was just like an odd-looking younger man. Now I'm someone who looks my age. So it's a little easier transition for me.
Gene Hackman, they always said that about him too.
Said what about him?
Just that it was like, what did young Gene Hackman look like?
Yeah, you're right. He's always had that
French Connection Gene Hackman. Yeah,
he's
he just always had that same kind of face.
I think he started a little late too.
He did.
I think Gene was older than some of his contemporaries when he started getting big work. Man, remember him in The Conversation and
he's
so many great movies.
He had like a run and then he had another run and then there was like a 90s run and he always, now I actually kind of miss Gene. I don't feel like we filled the Gene Hackman void. There was like a specific type of part that he was always the best at. And I don't know who that is.
I don't think that role is there anymore, honestly.
Maybe it's not. Like the Enemy of the State with Will Smith, like that role he played in that. I don't know who's that person now.
I don't know who the man's man is now. Well, where is that role of that, like an older guy with gravitas who's like, I'm not trying to be young and cute and hip. I'm a grown ass man,
Right.
who has ideas and who stands for ethical things and whatever. Like the way my dad was. My dad didn't want to dress like me. My dad was not interested in the music. I was, like, I have children now. I'm really curious. What do you listen to? Because there's this sort of pressure to look like a younger person than you are, to be hip with music that's younger than you, to know what's, otherwise you're a square or you're, God forbid, you're old, My dad's generation is like, I don't give a shit what you listen to. I'm a grown ass man. I wear a suit because I have achieved this point in my life.
Yeah.
I worked hard to get here. I'm not trying to be a boy, There's been a real shift in our mentality that way for men and women. We worship this idea. Everyone wants to be 24 or something, or even younger. But this idea that, like maturity is something to be avoided, or there's no way to age gracefully, like get surgery, get hair implants, whatever it is, do whatever you can to fight the tide. But that was another generation of guys like Robert Duvall, Gene Hackman,
Tommy Lee Jones.
One
Take Tommy.
All those guys, like, I don't know. It's interesting. Like, there aren't that many roles like that left. I mean, if you look at the amount of business that's done in this town, that's cartoons and superheroes, that's about 70% of the business. Maybe 60%. I don't know what the exact number is, but there's no roles for a Robert Duvall or a Robert De Niro or Gene Hackman in a superhero. Although, as I'm saying that, I realized Gene Hackman played one of the great villains.
He played Superman, yeah.
He was Lex Luthor, like the greatest Lex Luthor. With so much humor, though, Like now the villains in those movies are so like serious and overly dramatic.
Trying to steal the movie.
Nothing can be funny.
Yeah.
Gene Hackman was like this wonderfully chaotic, and he was scarier for that reason because he seemed like he was having a great time destroying the world. Anyway, so yeah, the point I'm making is like an old man's point. I sound like an old fart. Like
back in my day,
these movies these days, they don't care about quality.
Well,
but it's true.
We had Matt Damon. He was talking about how hard it was to make Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah,
and how
beautiful movie.
How worried he is about the movie that costs 15 to 70 million. And that was what was so interesting about A Star Is Born, which I saw this weekend. I thought it was really good, and it was, it's a remake, but it's still not a superhero movie. It's sold on look, kind of the merits of their stars.
Yeah, look, I say all power to them, even if it's a remake. When you're making, we need stories that like tell the human story. Like that's what cinema or movies are supposed to do. Yes, of course, they're supposed to sell popcorn and make you forget about your life. Yeah, sure. There's always a place for those kind of movies, but there should always also be a place for movies that affect you as a human being, that make you think about what it's like to be a human being and grow, and interesting ideas and stuff that's can be hard to watch, things that are like Manchester by the Sea is a perfect example, like this poor guy's, kid dies, and it's gut-wrenching. It's not something that you go running towards like you'd run towards a superhero movie, but it's vitally important for the art form of movies that we can experience these things.
Well, I'm hoping Netflix and Amazon, because even that movie I mentioned before with Catherine Hahn and Paul Giamatti, the fertility movie, that's a movie that just could not have been made anymore because nobody would have paid for it. But now Netflix seems to be spending money on...
Well, it's funny. I have a little bit of I don't know, Netflix and those larger streaming companies, it seems like, it's starting to become, at first it was like, well, you could go to the movies or you could stay home and, watch some of these like second run movies. Now these streaming services are becoming they want to be the front of it.
Yeah.
They want to be the movie you're watching that weekend, on opening weekend, and they want to destroy the distribution business. They want to reset the clock they want to like eliminate theaters, basically. That's Netflix. I don't know. I can't speak for them, but it seems like that's their MO. Destroy, like have people not go to the movies at all. Have them watch it all in their house.
I don't think theaters can be destroyed. You saw it this weekend.
I don't think so either. But
A Star Is Born in LA, like you couldn't get a ticket for it. You had to reserve it
I know.
Hey,
I've got a
if
movie
it's the
open
ra-
right now, by the way. I'm well aware of how much money Starsborn is making. No, but so the point I'm making is it's. I don't think Netflix believes that theatrical releases will go away. I think they want to do what Amazon did to bookshops.
Yeah.
They want to sell movies at a loss so that the streaming services become the way you see movies, and they want to destroy those, the theater chains.
Right.
And then once they're destroyed, go in and buy them, and now Netflix will own all the theaters, because it is true, I think, at least I pray this is true, that human beings crave that communal experience of being together in the dark and experiencing, that's why theater never died. That, there's something to be said for us getting together. It's just like church, you get together and we want to have a common experience, because that
sports is like that too. I think that's the biggest reason.
So I just think we're in a bit of a reorganization of the world in a lot of different ways. But
I don't want the $15 million movie to go away. So as long
15,
as
that sounds like a lot of money to
or
me.
whatever, the 5 to 15. Yeah.
People these days, the studio guys, they don't want to spend 15. They want to spend 100 so they can make 400,
yes.
But
they think like big businessmen. When you did,
this is not my area of expertise, by the way.
Yeah, but you care about art, and this is important because it's going to determine where we go. After Boogie Nights came out, did your life change at all, or is it the same? Just going on the next roles?
Almost every movie, including the first one I did, Casualties of War, people would say like, well, get ready. Your life's going to change now, man. Oh, wait till people see this. Including the movies I have out right now. I got Sisters, Brothers, Stan and Ollie, Wreck-It Ralph 2, and Holmes and Watson. Like, each time people are like, get ready when this is, But I know now after 75 movies or something that I'm still going to be me. I'm still going to have to hustle for work. I'm going to have to find the interesting work. And this is a fickle world, movies, you can't believe that you've attained some golden ring, because as soon as you do, like, the audience will remind you, oh, by the way, we have short-term memories for this kind of thing.
Quick break to talk about our friends at Proper Cloth. Finding a dress shirt that fits is nearly impossible. Something is always off, be it the collar or the sleeves. Thankfully, ordering a custom fit shirt has never been easier with Proper Cloth. You can easily create a custom shirt size in seconds by answering 10 simple questions on propercloth.com. Choose from over 20 collar styles, 10 cuff styles, 500 fabric styles, from classic to business to casual. Completely customize your shirt, get the style you want. They work with the best fabric producers from around the world. They only buy fabric that meets their high quality expectations. Each one of their shirts goes through extensive quality control testing, so you're getting the absolute best quality and craftsmanship. Best of all, Proper Cloth guarantees a perfect fit, meaning if somehow your shirt doesn't fit perfectly, they will remake it for free. It is a risk-free process. It's the future of shirts. Shirts made completely custom for you, starting at just $80. Look, stop wearing shirts that don't fit. Just stop. Start looking your best with a custom fitted shirt. Go to propercloth.com/Simmons today. And if you enter gift code Simmons, you save $20 on your first shirt. Once again, propercloth.com/Simmons, gift code Simmons. Back to John C. Reilly. Well, I think your situation is a tiny bit unique because you've made all these movies that are part of people's life. Like Step Brothers only been on 10 years. And I feel like that's become, and it was funny because, and this is one of the reasons we did the oral history about it on The Ringer. It did well when it came out, but then it just kind of gained steam. And I think the cable, the rewatchability, all that stuff just kind of shoves it to another level. And people feel like you're in their life.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud of that movie. I'm really proud of that one.
High degree of difficulty.
Yeah.
You basically didn't really have a story and just tried to figure it out other than the basic premise.
We had a story. We had a good story.
No, but you had to ad-lib a bunch of the...
We had a pretty good script, too. I mean, that's the thing. We improvised a lot together beforehand when we're writing together.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, so we had this kind of great improv-based script already that was very inspiring for other ideas. So, yes, we'd improvise a ton, but we always had this great game plan to go back to. But I'm especially proud of that movie because, number one, I put a lot of myself into it, a lot of my childhood stories and a lot of things that happened to me growing up in a big family in Chicago.
Yeah.
a lot of them. and the other thing I'm really proud about with Step Brothers is people love it because it's really funny and it's a very broad comedy. But I think the reason that it's so deep inside people now, that it's so ingrained in their kind of DNA, is that it seems true. It's subversive in that way. It tells the truth about family relationships and divorce and what it feels like to have a stepbrother and like all that. Like all that stuff is just emotionally really true in the movie. And then we have giant gags like making people kiss white dog poop or whatever.
Right.
But
well, you
but
and
at the
Pharaoh,
basis of it's a lot of really real emotional stuff. I have a mother who died, like it's like it's very real. That's not like comedy stuff,
You and Pharaoh seemed like at that point you'd been together on a few projects and you're just humming at that point.
Well, we've done Talladega Nights together. That was it. Those guys wanted me to do Anchorman, but I was doing another movie at the time, so I
kind of feel like you were an Anchorman, even though you weren't. It just seems like you should have been.
I'm in the sequel.
They should have CGI'd you into it later, to the cable.
Yeah, no, that movie didn't need me. It's a brilliant, brilliant movie. But Will and I, we definitely hit our stride by the time we did Step Brothers together because we had been working together a lot, building the story of that movie, writing it together with Adam. And but I have to say, Molly Shannon introduced me to Will. And I met Molly on a movie called Never Been Kissed, which is fine. It's not, it's not like,
first of all, how dare you?
My kind of movie necessarily.
I have a daughter and a wife who watches all those movies. They love that movie.
Yeah. I'm not saying anything bad about the movie. It's just in terms of the kind of movies I like. And I know that I took that movie at the time because I just had a kid and I was like, broke, after 30 movies or something, totally broke, which I obviously did not get very much financial planning training when I was young. But, so I kind of took it because I was desperate. And then like Molly and I became friends on that one. And it ended up being a really exciting time working on that movie with her. And then I met Will and I remember thinking, wow, like as soon as I met him, we shook hands. We were on the West Side and we were going to go have breakfast with him and Molly. And I remember looking at him like, oh my God, like I did feel like related to him or something right away. I was like, I understand this guy. And there's something like right away, like literally the first moment I met him. Yeah. And I didn't know a ton of his work or anything before that. I knew some stuff from Saturday Night Live or whatever, but it wasn't like I was some huge fan. Like I knew him to be a funny guy, but I didn't know him very well. And I just remember just really clicking like, wow. Like, and I still feel that way. Will and I are still good friends.
Could you have been a cast member or is it because you hosted it once? Could you have done that? Could you have been on the Will Ferrell cast for 3 years? Or is that something you never would have wanted to do?
It's not something I was ever interested in doing, but I don't know. I'm a little bit, I'm kind of like, I'm not you have to be like a really loyal, obedient person, I think, to succeed on that show.
Because it's so structured?
Yes, because there's this whole legacy that comes before you. So it's not necessarily about you. You're filling a role within this legacy of the show. And this is how the show works. And these are the people who control it. And you do your bit. And there's so much competition and all that. Like, I don't know. Like when I did host it, I felt like, I don't know, I might not thrive in that, I always end up mouthing off or something, like I don't know when to keep my mouth shut, kind of.
What was it like? You did Chicago, which was a big hit, but that was musical. And I think people like me were surprised that you were in a musical, but meanwhile you had this whole background with it.
Yeah, I grew up doing musicals. Yeah.
So you flipped it on people.
Well,
they're like, John C. Reilly? He's in Chicago? What?
I didn't know he could sing.
What the hell?
Yeah, I was really proud of that one because it took me when I went to acting school at DePaul, my thinking was at the time, like, well, musicals are not serious. Musicals are not what real actors do. Robert De Niro doesn't do musicals, although he did.
He did.
So I thought of it as this kind of silly thing. It was less than dignified for a serious actor. As that opportunity came to me, I realized like, oh my God, not only is this what real actors do, this is an amazing art form. This is one of the few art forms that Americans can really call their own. Yes, sure, it's maybe based on music hall of England or whatever, but or opera or whatever you want to call it. But the musical, the contemporary musical was created in America, and it's our opera. We got jazz, we got baseball, we got musicals.
Yeah.
Everything else is pretty much derived from England or Europe or.
Now we have hip hop. I would add hip hop.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. And in a way, hip hop is an extension of jazz to me.
True.
But yeah, definitely. So I realized when I got that opportunity with Chicago, like, wow, this is like, not only is this what real actors do, this is like a sacred opportunity to get to like, and it felt like such a great return to my roots. And I knew exactly what to do with that character. And I just remember just so many emotional moments behind the scenes on that movie, just becoming overwhelmed with emotion, thinking about how amazing that experience was and what a gift it was and how foolish I was in college to think like serious actors don't do musicals. Stupid.
You've headlined a bunch of movies too, because there was a time there when it was like, oh, he's a character actor. He'll be one of those guys who bounces around.
Well,
he's
as a famous agent once said to me, as I was trying to like get to another level or get larger roles or something, or like I was asking this very powerful guy at this agency, like, what do I got to do? How do I get the shot to be a lead in one of these movies? Like, meanwhile, I don't look like the kind of guy that a studio is going to cast in a lead. So there's that. But this agent looks at me, he's like, John, you're a very expensive character actor. And I was like, damn. Like sometimes when you get that bracing truth from Hollywood business types, you're like, fucking hell, okay. I'm an expensive character actor. Like, well, that either means I gotta lower my price or I have to or I gotta work on getting larger parts because there's not much future for an expensive character actor.
Well, I think Philip Seymour Hoffman was like that too. There was this whole new class of actors that were coming up that were being kind of typecast as the character actors.
The way I was just describing, like, where are those guys, those men?
Yeah.
Like with gravitas, who are like, I'm not a boy, I'm a man. And I have, like, Phil was one of those guys to me. Phil was like a lion, he had real gravitas.
And was Boogie Nights the first time you worked with him?
No, he was in Hard Eight.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And I'll never forget the first time I heard about Phil. Paul Anderson said to me, I met the next John C. Reilly. I was like, fuck you. How dare you? And then I met Phil. I was like, God damn it. Here we go. I'm going to be chasing this guy for the rest of my life. And
when you saw what he was doing with Scotty, we were like, oh, man, he's really going for this.
Yeah, all of it. Even in Hard Eight, he just had one scene at the craps table, but you're like, wow, the bravado that he brought in, but boom, like no one knew who the hell he was. And he just like slayed in that scene. And then he and I went on to do True West on Broadway together.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Didn't you like alternate parts back and forth?
Yeah, we switched the roles every 3 performances. So sometimes like we do a matinee one way and the evening performance the other way. That was really fun. It's like one of my proudest moments of my whole life, getting to do that with Phil every night.
Were you friends with him or you just work buddies?
Yeah, we're friends. Yeah. I mean, everyone who was in kind of Paul's repertory company, whether it was Bill Macy or Philip Baker Hall or Phil Hoffman, we were all friends for sure.
Yeah.
That said, Phil lived, I don't think he ever lived out here actually, but he primarily lived in New York and I eventually moved out here. So it wasn't like we were spending a lot of time socially together, but I always held Phil in the highest esteem. Like he was an incredible, incredible actor.
Have you worked with anybody younger generation who you feel like has a chance to get to that, like what we're talking about?
Gosh.
Anybody in their 20s or something?
This is when I sound really old, and I tell you, I don't know anyone in the younger generation.
Next generation? Well, you've been in a lot of movies.
I worked with this guy Thomas Mann, who's in Skull Island with me, Kong Skull Island.
The whole Simmons family liked that movie.
Oh yeah,
Kong Skull Island. Oh yeah,
I'm really proud of that one too. I love that movie. I had to play a Cubs fan, unfortunately, but I'm from the South Side, and White Sox is sort of in my DNA. But so Thomas Mann is a younger guy that I was really impressed with.
What Well,
Gosh, who else? Name some people. I'll tell you.
I don't know.
think
I should have brought a list. What happens to the Paul Thomas Anderson Repertory Company? Because now he's spends like 2-3 years making these. I thought Phantom Thread was incredible.
Yeah,
I was like, I still want to see him occasionally do like the fun, not so serious movie, and I think he kind of wants to do it. Like he didn't like rule it out, but he kind of just drifts toward these mega drama projects now.
Well, I think you just have to be honest with yourself and really do what you are interested in from moment to moment, and can't do things because someone wants you to do work like you used to do or whatever. You have to just do what you are honestly
I think he wants to
drawn
do it though. I think he wants to do like something with more. Although I thought Phantom Thread was really funny, but it wasn't like funny the way Boogie Nights was funny. It was like two different types of.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I wouldn't counsel Paul to do anything differently. I think he's really up there.
When was the last time you worked with him?
Magnolia. But when you look at what he did with Phantom Thread, not only did he direct that movie and write that movie, and he had to direct Daniel Day-Lewis, who is like not a picnic to direct. He's a very intense guy. I've worked with him.
You did Gangs of New York with him, right?
He's an intense guy. Like you gotta show up at 110% every single morning with him, or he'll just eat you for lunch.
Yeah.
So Paul not only wrote and directed that movie, he was the director of photography on that movie, and he was the camera operator on that movie. All due respect to the other filmmakers that were noticed. Was it last year the movie came out?
Yeah.
All due respect to the other filmmakers who were noticed that year, but nobody did what Paul did on that movie. I finished that and I was like, I remember like looking, I didn't even know he shot it. I was working in London at the same time as he was, and I hung out with him. We'd go see dailies and stuff. And I remember him being really involved with the dailies, talking about the color timing, and they were making change. And I was like, why is he so like micromanaging the photography? And then after I saw the movie, I was like, God damn, he did all of that. And just to be the director and direct Daniel Day-Lewis in a part that was as intense as that part, that is a massive undertaking. But to park yourself behind the lens and be in charge of making sure the camera's going the right way, like,
it's amazing. It
really was.
He should have just made the costumes too. He should have just done everything.
Well,
should have just sewn all the dresses.
Yeah, I'm sure he had a lot to say about the costumes. There's nothing in Paul's movies that's not there because he didn't pick it.
All right, let's go through the new movies you have. You have 4.
Yeah.
So what do you want to talk about first?
Whatever you want to talk about.
No, tell me about each one.
4 more hours?
No, we're wrapping up. The Sisters Brothers.
The Sisters Brothers, yeah. Well, the publicist must have overheard us and said,
no, I think they were going to talk about that.
I Sisters Brothers,
I have a whole process.
Yeah. Sisters Brothers is a movie that I produced with my wife, Allison Dickey. We bought the rights to this book that was written by Patrick DeWitt 7 years ago.
Okay.
And we promised Patrick that we'd make the best movie we could from his book. And then we got this French director, Jacques Audiard, involved, and Jacques took it on. And, he did The Prophet and Rust and Bone.
Yeah.
And won the Palme d'Or for Deepan. Anyway, he's like one of the greatest filmmakers also out there working right now. And, it's in theaters now, and it's a pretty incredible movie, I must say. I'm not speaking for myself. I'm talking for what Jacques did with the genre. What he does with the Western in the Sisters Brothers is really, really interesting. He stays ahead of you the whole time. You never know what's going to happen. There's all this intensely emotional stuff going on between me and Joaquin Phoenix. He plays my brother. We're hired killers in 1851 in San Francisco and the Pacific Northwest. And we're hired to go find this guy and kill him. And along the way, we start to have doubts about, wait, who is this guy? What did he do? Why should we kill him? And also, we've been killing people for a living since we were little kids. And we're starting to have this like identity crisis, So the movie is, I don't know. It's a really deeply satisfying movie. How I was saying earlier about how, so a lot of these movies are just there to entertain you now. Yeah. I watched a movie on the plane on the way back from Europe recently, big superhero movie, and it was good. It made the flight pass by, and I was engaged in it. But as soon as that movie was over, I couldn't tell you a single thing of what it was about or what happened.
Yeah.
I could tell you maybe who a couple of the actors were in it. I couldn't tell you a single thing about the plot, and it had no resonance in my life afterwards. The Sisters Brothers, what people are saying to me when they watch the Sisters Brothers is like, wow, like, first of all, holy shit, like that was a really original take on the Western. I didn't even know that was going on at that time, and blah, blah, blah. And I liked the movie when it was finished, but I can't stop thinking about it. That it keeps expanding in my consciousness, and it keeps like echoing inside me emotionally about my own relationships and the place of men in the world and what is masculinity and like all these stuff. Like it's really resonating with people. So every time I go out to sell a movie, I try to urge people to see it. And I say, please go see it. But I really do hope people go see the Sisters Brothers because it's a pretty special movie. Of all the stuff I've done, it's pretty damn special.
That was a great sell job.
Thank you.
Now I'm like, I'm like out of my mind ready to see it. No, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a lot of sports to watch. I'm going to make some time.
Okay.
This is baseball playoffs, NFL, NBA.
So
I'm still going to make time for this.
Who's going to win? I've known
the Cubs are out.
I know. I don't care.
The Brewers are somehow in the Final Four.
I was glad the Cubs were out.
Brewers are in the Final Four.
It gives me special joy, like this kind of sadistic pleasure when the Cubs lose, especially when they pan the audience and you see all the Northsiders with their sad little faces. Like it makes Southsiders in Chicago so happy. Like, although when the Cubs won, unlike many Sox fans, I was actually like, it's a good day for the city. It's a good day for the city. You know, but I have lots of people on the South Side who were like, die. Like they were not happy.
Well, you must have loved it when the White Sox won and all the Cubs fans were super resentful.
It was literally like the second coming on the South Side. People had their televisions out on the front yards and the lawn watching it as it unfolded. Like people, it was mayhem. I was also there in Chicago when Jordan was winning all those championships with the Bulls. But I'm known as the Jinx in Chicago.
Why?
Among my friends, because I'm like the Johnny Come Lately, like in Silver Linings Playbook when all the paranoid thinking about luck and superstition and all that. I'm the guy that messes it up. I'm the guy that says the wrong thing or whatever.
Oh, Jesus.
Like when the Bears won the Super Bowl in 86?
Yeah.
The one game they lost was the game that I went over to my brother-in-law's house.
The Miami game.
Yeah, Miami Dolphins. I went over to his house to watch, and they lost. And it was the one time I went over to his house to watch it. And now I'm still the Jinx from that one game.
You caught Kevin Costner's.
I kind of believe it.
You caught his perfect game, though. That wasn't a jinx.
Yeah. It's a perfect game. Yeah. I know where the pitches really landed, Bill. And it wasn't a perfect game.
You saw the secret sauce. We have to go. You have to go continue to promote this movie and your other ones.
I should have done this a long time ago.
This was fun. You're always invited. Anytime you want to come back.
A 30-year anniversary of Boogie Nights.
You're going to participate?
Yeah, let me know.
That'd be amazing. I want to get you and Paul Thomas Anderson on together.
Oh, man.
That'd be the dream podcast.
Look out.
Would you do that?
Better set aside a few hours for that one.
Would you do that one? We could get food.
So many stories between the two of us.
Yeah, we'll do it in like a restaurant. We'll eat and we'll just put microphones there. We could spend 3 hours just
talking about Burt Reynolds, and the stories that happened on Boogie Nights and the craziness that went into that performance.
That Boogie Nights house was available for sale last year.
I saw it. And it looked the same.
And he was thinking about, Paul was thinking about buying it.
Did you know?
But it was like, well, what are you going to do in West Covina? Yeah, what are you going to do there?
But do you know about the people that own that house?
No.
They were like devout Christians.
Oh, no.
Devout
and
Christians.
You filmed Boogie Nights there?
And they had not changed that house since like 1974. Like we barely did any set dressing when they went in there. It was like almost the same as it was in the 70s.
I think it's almost the same now.
And then one day, they didn't know what the movie was about. The people that owned it, they didn't, and of course would never have approved of any kind of porn thing in their house. And so there was a day when we had Summer and Rain, those big chested girls. Remember, like in the 80s, where Ricky Jay is filming them, and it's just video. We just keep shooting or whatever. And these girls playing with each other in the hot tub and whatever. That day, the Christian people that own the house decided, we'll go visit the movie set.
Oh, no.
And I remember looking out and seeing like this producer, John Lyons, like booking down the driveway, trying to stop them. He's like, well, we're actually, can I take you out to lunch? Like desperately trying to keep them from coming in the house. But I wonder what they thought of it when it was done.
Well, good luck with your 4 movies.
I bet they got more money for that house though when they sold it, based on it being Boogie Nights.
I gotta say, it was on sale for a while, and Boogie Nights was used as the selling point of the house, and it still was on sale for 9 months because we actually had a legitimate conversation about whether the Ringer should buy it and shoot all of our videos from there. But it's too far away.
Commute, dude.
It's like 50 minutes. Yeah. If it was like 20 minutes, we could have done
a lot of time on the 10.
Yeah, it would have been rough. And the 60. John C. Reilly, good luck with everything. Thanks for coming on finally. Thanks so much to John C. Reilly. Thanks to KOC and Ryen Russillo. Thanks to ZipRecruiter. Don't forget to check them out at ZipRecruiter.com/BS. Thanks to FanDuel, where you get the excitement of researching and building your team each week, regardless of the outcome. They have tons of ways to play, like the Gridiron Pick'em contest. Pick winners, no spreads. That's it. 10K split amongst the top pickers. I've tried other DF sites, and if you're not a fantasy expert, FanDuel is clearly the place to play. New users get a $5 bonus when they make their first deposit, so come play with me at FanDuel.com/BS. Thanks to SimpliSafe. They go beyond what home security should be. Intuitive design influences every step of securing your home, like installation. SimpliSafe ships right to your door, ready to go. It never stops. SimpliSafe's built-in backups protect you through power failures, Wi-Fi outages, even baseball bats, all for just $14.99 a month. Order today. You'll get free shipping and free returns. Start your risk-free 60-day trial at simplisafe.com/BS. That is SimpliSafe with 2 I's.com/BS. Back on Friday with House. We are doing NBA over-unders. It is happening. Win totals. The whole shebang. You're getting it. See you then.